Hey everybody, David Costello here, founder and CEO of Jetpack Workflow and host of Growing Your Firm podcast. Today's guest is Matthew May. He is the founder and VP of Sales and Marketing at Acuity CFO. And for fans of the Future Firm newsletter, you probably are familiar with his name or his firm name is being called out as a firm that's launching some pretty innovative services, which we're going to get into later in today's episode. But first, I just wanted to say welcome, Matthew, to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Yeah, of course. Well, for people not familiar with you or Acuity, tell us a little bit about the services you offer, who you offer it for, and the size of the firm.
Sure. Well, we started off as a CFO-for-hire practice, 15 years ago or so. I joined the practice about 8 years ago. My co-founder started it with another guy. I joined the factory. Actually, my 8th anniversary was this week. But
Congratulations.
We quickly offered controller services. And then about 9 years ago, we offered bookkeeping services. So we did everything backwards that everybody tells us to do. And then 2 years ago, we started offering tax services. So we have the 4 service lines. When I started 8 years ago, we were about 8 people. Today, we're about 105, 110 people. We're kind of all over the place. I think we're in 10 states and 4 countries now, and just having a lot of fun.
Yeah, very cool. So what was going on 8 years ago that afforded you the opportunity to come in and help, level up this firm to help transform it, be a partner? Did you already know the founders? Was it something else? How did that work?
Yeah, Kenji, my partner, who was the original founder, his original partner had left the firm at the time, and I ended up functionally buying him out. And we were just really aligned. He and his other partner, his other partner is more conservative. So they had been a 10-person firm, 8 to 10-person firm for about 8 years when I joined. And Kenji and I just always had this alignment. I decided it was time to hang up the public accounting shoes. I was a partner at a relatively large accounting firm in the US at the time, and hung it up, took a risk, and we just started having fun and growing the practice. And now it's like a real boy. It's like grown up.
Really cool. And what was the driving factor in making that leap? I mean, you had achieved a monumental milestone in public accounting. So what prompted you to say, I'm going to leave that and go help build this firm to the next level?
Man, audit's a rough world. And so it's always living in the past, a year ago, if not more. And it's just such a tough world, and it's a grind. And I just had a real hard time understanding where I was going to only make money if I just ground people into the ground. So the only way to make money as an audit partner is to make a 23-year-old work 80 hours a week instead of 70 hours a week. They felt like there had to be a better way. Obviously, at that time, my kids were younger and I wanted to enjoy my kids. And I was working lots of hours, 2,800 hours a year. And this was the way for me to get a sustainable life,
Yeah, absolutely. So when you came in, 8 to 10 people, just to understand, the arc, and then we're going to dig into all the scar tissue you alluded to pre-interview. So 8 to 10, what is that? About 750 to $1 million a year, and then we're at today. Like
my first year, we did $850K in revenue. Previously, before that, when he had his partner, they had been about $1 million revenue firm, and I'm happy to say last quarter we did our first $2 million quarter. So we're on pace for somewhere between kind of 8.5 and 9 this year with our growth. Sales team's doing great. My sales team added a customer every business day for the first 4 months of the year. So we added 85 customers in the first 4 months of this year. Just crazy effective team right now. Everybody's kind of hitting on all cylinders, and we're just having fun. We just have a great team, and that's the most of it,
Yeah, this is there's a lot to dig into. I know we're going to talk about the new service offering. Really quick, just to tell people where we're going. I want to dig into the sales though, because that's amazing and really fascinating. So you have the CFO services, bookkeeping services, you have tax services. And then what's the fourth one?
The controller services.
Launched?
So like
controller services, right?
Complex accounting services. We have about Relatively speaking, we have about 10 CFOs, 35 controllers, 35 bookkeepers, and 4 or 5 people on the tax team.
Okay.
Order of magnitude right now. And then we have in the infrastructure side about 25 people that don't work on clients, that don't have clients time. They're working on the business.
Wow, very interesting. 25 people in the business. And what is the new service you recently launched? I think it was fairly unique in the industry.
Well, yeah, I guess it'll be fun. So I'm now the CEO of a company called VerifyQ. So we've had the opportunity to invest in certain technology vendors. VerifyQ is the company in Canada that built our quality control system. So the problem we got to when we were about 50 people is we had 2 people full time working on quality control, and they're barely touching everybody once a year. We found a firm in Canada called VerifyQ that we invested in their initial round. And then we just recapped it and did a seed investment. I took over as CEO to help. We offer the system we use, the quality control system we use for our firm, to other firms around the country and in Canada. So we mainly serve Canada and the US. And it currently serves anybody who supports QuickBooks Online or Xero. So
Okay. Got it. So it looks like I put a big circle around time management for you then, because we'll talk about how you juggle everything here in a second. But to circle back, okay, sales is going exceptionally well. This is, I think, one of the hardest transitions for any firm that maybe hits that 8 or 10 or 15 employee mark, is how to get sales out of just the partner, the founder doing all the sales. So tell us a little bit about your sales structure today, your organizational structure for the team, and help me understand that a bit more.
Well, we hate talking about it because it's kind of daunting, and you have to mess it up for a long time for it to work. But of the 85 sales, neither me or my partner sold them. So we have we have a salesperson, we call him account executive. He's been with us about 5 years now. He does not have an accounting background. We trained him from the kind of the ground up, and he can close every deal. He does bring in some of our directors of accounting if he needs help, or if it's a crypto client, I'll jump on a sales call with him. If it's really complex, he'll find the person in our organization to pull in at the right time in the sales call. But one of the things that we did when we started the sales team is we decided, for our business to be valuable, our clients had to be buying into Acuity and not the
Yes.
Kenji or Matthew show.
Yes. And so so 5 years ago, we'll call it 5.5 years ago, were you still doing the sales? Your partner still doing the sales? And was this, the AE? And when you hire this individual, how did you put the training together? How did you put the consultation scripts together? How are the leads being generated? I mean, it's a whole system that, like you said, it's very daunting, when somebody starts thinking about this.
Well, yeah, especially outbound sales. It's just the numbers are just astronomical, because on a cold call, you're supposed to close about 0.3% of your cold calls. And when you look at the numbers behind that, that's just a daunting number. So
Yeah.
what we do when we find accountants struggling is we look to other industries. So we actually went to a conference called SaaStr. So we felt like the SaaS technology companies sold better than accounting firms. And we went there, we looked at their model, we talked to lots of SaaS companies, and then we kind of built that model into what's good for accounting firms. So you have kind of inbound and outbound people talk about. So that's what we did for outbound. For inbound, everybody told us, we call inbound marketing, eating our vegetables. Everybody tells you it's good for you, but we don't really understand why. So you just do it. So we blogged all the time. We do video content all the time. We basically just throw stuff against the wall. And we do have a marketing firm that's helped us for the last 3 years kind of organize it and do some of the technical stuff behind the scenes. But we built it up because that's such a muscle, and we just kind of ate our vegetables. We have like 400 blogs. People do hit our site, on a regular basis for different topics. We have started to kind of build that funnel. but nothing like, Pilot or Bench or these guys that have raised, $100 million have on the infrastructure side, right? It's kind of daunting. We've dabbled with the paid stuff, but that's just that's just tough, you know.
Yeah. Well, and so is the majority of your sales. It sounds like some percentage are through inbound, which you've developed through all the written content, video content you've done. So I encourage the listeners check out Acuity, see what they're doing from a content perspective. But for the outbound, do you have like a sales development rep that is cold calling, cold emailing that feeds the account executive
We do.
calls, or how does? Okay.
So we have 3 sales development reps right now. So and then all those people are appointment setters. I highly encourage that, even if you don't have a sales rep, to have appointment setters for everybody, because it's awesome. You just tell them, like literally on Monday, they go after SaaS technology companies that are a certain size and try to set those appointments. On Tuesday, they work on marketing services firms. On Wednesday, they work on e-commerce. On Thursday, they work on technology again. And then on Friday, they work on companies that work with cryptocurrency, because those are niches. We have kind of 3 practices where we win more than we lose, generally. And SaaS technology companies are a number 1 niche. It's about 150 clients. Marketing services firms, about 150 clients. And then in the cryptocurrency world, if anybody's using cryptocurrency, we have a high success rate, because there's just not a lot of firms doing it. But it's a smaller niche, 20, 25, 30 clients in that niche.
Yeah, and I forgot to ask at the beginning. I mean, what's the average client pay you in a given year?
Sure. We have about 650 clients, and they pay us about somewhere between $1,100 and $1,300 a month is our average. They usually start with us about $550 a month. So they start about $6,000 a year, and they grow to about $13,000 a year. And then that's kind of the range that we target. That's kind of a good number.
Yeah, I mean, I have, for what it's worth, I've never met a firm that's kind of reached your level of scale or approached your level of scale without at least getting up to this kind of 6, 7, 10K, 15K a year clients. It is just so hard to scale up to your level and have it at 200 a month, 300 a month.
Oh yeah. We definitely found out our minimum. Our minimum to make sense to have this infrastructure and work with a client is $300 a month. So and that's tough to do even at that level. We started with a 199 offering. We did that for a couple of years. That just didn't make sense. Our goal was to get our MVP, which is our minimum viable product, which is our core offering, down to a cell phone bill. And we think 299 is kind of great on that. Now, you don't get taxes for that. That's just bookkeeping. So we kind of do it differently too. Some people like lead with tax. We lead with bookkeeping. That's kind of different for firms, I think. But we've only had tax for 2 years. So we started leading with CFO, then we led with controller, then we lead with bookkeeping. Now we have tax that we can sell to. So
yeah. So if the kind of lowest entry price on average is $299 a month, if you have a client that's invested in all those services and they buy them today at whatever the market price is today, like what's that general range now look like? So bottom's 3,600. Does it go up to about 20K a year, 30K a year? What's the top range?
We may have 5 clients over 10 grand a month.
Okay, so it really is about 10 grand.
So our biggest client ever was probably $350,000 a year, something like that. So that was like 30 grand a month, but that was a really exceptional case with that was back when I was serving clients too. So that you got to be careful on what you're comparing. We actually pull, my partner and I's revenue is not included in our CFO revenue line or controller revenue. It's not up there. It's in other revenue. So we didn't track it. So we tracked it differently because we feel like that's a mistake and trap people may have all the time, is counting their revenue towards their firm revenue. Because when you leave, if you ever sell the practice, that's not a value, right? That they should just scope that completely out. So we just did it up front. We just put that in other.
That's really interesting. It sounds like when you entered the firm, you and your partner really had this vision to grow. Did you have experience leading 100 people, 90 people, as you've grown up? Is this kind of a comfortable space for you, or is it kind of by the seat of your pants the last 7 years with all this growth?
Well, I mean, my partner had been in his firm, just 8 people from firm. So, I mean, but I was a new partner, so I don't know that I was comfortable leading 100 people, but we've definitely kind of just figured it out and stayed true to what we are. And um,
What was what do you feel like as you were scaling up? What were the key inflection points where you're like this firm now feels fundamentally different? Was it when you hit 20 or 50 or 75, or was it a certain revenue number where things felt like they started cracking? You had to rebuild them. Was there ever kind of
oh,
these?
oh yeah. So, well, we we had we've had a couple of times where we kind of had to double down on infrastructure, and a couple of times where we got over our skis and tried to grow too fast. So, kind of at that 4 to 5 million range in revenue, we were trying to grow too fast, try to be too cute. We hadn't raised money. We we're bootstrapping it. So like you can't have a 15-person sales team, which we had at the time. And um,
Oh
you
wow.
know,
Okay.
we tried to do that, and we were like a little bit, because all our customers were doing it, and I mean, we should have known better, but we got over our skis on that. We were spending $1 million a year on sales, and with a $4 million or $5 million revenue company, that doesn't work, right?
Hmm.
Not with the margins in professional services versus SaaS. So we made some big mistakes like that on just infrastructure and hiring. We actually had to do a layoff because we did that, just in the sales team, not with the services team. But that was a big mistake that we made. And then infrastructure wise, we kind of plateaued right around. We got stuck on 6 to 7 million in revenue for about 3 years. Um, One of the reasons for that is we didn't have really the infrastructure or the team built. We added a COO. At that time, we did a major rehaul of the infrastructure. We kind of had an aha moment. We got approached, in 17, 18, kind of from a PE firm that wanted us to do a roll up. They thought, oh, you're big, you figured it out. And we were like, oh, to buy 100 firms, you would need a totally different infrastructure. So we had gone through that thought exercise with a private equity firm. And that led us not to do the deal with the private equity firm, but it led us to like rethink like all of our systems. So we did a major Salesforce implementation. We moved to teamwork from a services side, because workflow systems, this, like it's the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
like for scale, like like that's the whole thing. And if you don't have a good infrastructure system in place, you really cap out at that like 5 million range. I mean, it's just too hard to scale.
What was it like, bringing in a COO? How was that recruiting process? It sounded like you came to the conclusion like we need that internal seniority, but how do you go about bringing that person in and finding the right person,
I
especially
have
remote?
I have no idea. So we were incredibly fortunate that one of our controllers emerged out as a just clear leader in our firm. She took over the controller practice after I moved out. I used to run the controller and CFO practices. She took over the controller practice at one point, and she just emerged as this leader. So we lucked out like nobody's business. In somebody grew into that role, that had been with us a long time, and
We'll
that's not
break apart
normal.
that a little bit. Yeah, we'll break apart that a little bit. So, what attributes were you seeing? What gave you that confidence? Like, does that mean she was great at managing, or she was great technically, or she was a great communicator? Like, what were you seeing?
Uh, I I think one of the biggest things is she filled in the gaps between what Kenji and I kind of were good at, right? So, and if you did at that time, if you did a personality profile indicator, we did a personality assessment, and there were like 4 different personality types. Like I was one, Kenji was one, she was another one, and then the head of our bookkeeping team was this other one. So she's totally the process integrator kind of person, that really gets it, you know. Um, and Kenji and I like to go break stuff and do stupid things and figure out what works and doesn't work. And she figures out how to institutionalize them. And that's huge. Like that's a big skill set you need to be successful.
And so how have the operating cadences changed as you've grown, or have they stayed the same? Is it, weekly team meeting, weekly one-on-ones, monthly? Like what are the cadences you're running, and have they changed at all over the last couple of years?
Oh, they have to change. It's really interesting with the remote firm in particular. You have to build community with your company, or your people will feel more clearly like associated with your clients than you, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've always worked with a team structure. So weekly team meetings, some of them are as short as 15 minutes, some of them are as long as an hour, just weekly team meetings with the teams. So that's your like core. That's where you come in.
That's you're meeting like department by, like you are attending department meetings, or is that the entire company all hands weekly?
No. That's just your team. So your team meets weekly. So I'm not in those, if I'm not on that team, I'm not in that team. I like do the one for the sales team, and that's it. But
Right.
you meet weekly. But then people were like, okay, that's great. And we had that community, and we were like, okay, but they were like, what's going on with the company?
Mm-hmm.
So then we moved to a quarterly all hands. So we do a quarterly all hands where we do a state of the kind of profession. We do the state of Acuity. We use a dashboard called Drav that's open. Every employee can see all of our financials. So we go through that. We have a big transparency thing here. So they always have access to our top 20 financial metrics, every employee, but nobody ever goes to it, believe it or not. But we go through it every quarter. And then we got to the point where that wasn't enough. So 3 years ago, we launched what we call AcuityCon, and we bring everybody from all over the United States into Atlanta, Georgia for 2 days. We had 18 tech partners show up for the first one. So the tech partners came, and we had a conference. We like threw our own ZeroCon or whatever. It was like, it really was a con. Last year, unfortunately, we had to do it virtual. This year, we're coming back in September, and we're going to do it in person. And so that's a big piece, is like creating like a big kind of community event. We were missing that for a lot of years,
Yeah, that's amazing. So that 2-day event, and I think for, like everybody, oh goodness, I guess not everybody, but a lot of firms are obviously, a lot of companies are at least going hybrid, if not fully remote, right? So I think this is going to become a critical staple in a lot of these remote and hybrid firms even. And so what's the rough agenda you have for those 2 days? How much of it is like fun? How much of it is content? How much of it, how do you think about it?
Yeah, we're digging through that. The first year, I can tell you what we did. So we tried to keep it, so we did it half day to half day, so people could fly in, fly out, so it's not intrusive, as intrusive as their lives. We have a lot of parents that work with us, so a lot of people with small kids,
I see. So they could fly in Tuesday morning, leave Wednesday afternoon. That's
if they wanted, or they could fly in Monday morning, or Monday afternoon and stay for Tuesday, fly out Wednesday. So it's as minimally invasive in their family life as possible. We're big on making sure this job works with people's families. We think that's a huge piece of sustainability. But so they came in, I think, so we had content. So we did the state of Acuity when we started off with. Then we went into sessions. We had breakout sessions with the tech partners running the breakout sessions on some of them. We actually had another podcast that's kind of fun, Cloud Accounting Podcast, recorded a live podcast for us.
Fun.
And brought our people on stage and like interviewed them as they did there. And then we did a real fun happy hour on the rooftop. And then people kind of hung out. And then the next day we had team meetings and an expo. So then it was just, you walked into the big room, and it was like all of our tech partners, and they were set up like an expo, and you could just mill around and ask them questions. And then the teams met. And then we have a program called Acuity Cares. We do free books and for a certain number of charities, and typically reserve the final spot for the charity, the newest charity we do the books for. And the one the first year was a company called New Story, which is 3D printing homes. And there's not a dry eye in the place for lunch. Like, it was just crazy because they're trying to eliminate homelessness by 3D printing homes in some South American countries right now. So it's crazy.
Really cool. Yeah, that's amazing. And goodness, we've covered so much ground. I want to make sure we also touch upon this new service. So you have this, correct me if I get the wording wrong, but in my notes, DIY accounting.
Oh, you're talking about the DIY accounting service. Oh yeah.
So,
oh god. Yeah, that's kind
that's,
of in my head. It's in beta right now.
So it's in beta. So what is it? Why are you, people hear that and they say, oh, you're coming after the actual accounting firm here. You're almost like disrupting yourselves with this product in some ways. Or that's how it might be perceived. I don't think you might perceive it from your client segmentation for this product. But walk us through the genesis behind it and kind of what stage it's at now.
Well, it's in beta, but how it came about is, we have a way of doing things now, right? We get asked to speak at conferences. We get asked to speak at incubators. I've spoken at literally at the national incubator conferences about accounting and financial literacy. We've done Techstars. We've done a bunch of programs where we do their education programs. So we have all these like lunch and learns we've done forever. So we're just doing, actually I have the professional video set up behind me right here. We're just recording the videos. We're building them into modules. We're building tactical things people can download and action lists. We're just taking a lunch and learn and taking it that we've done forever and taking it to the next level. And we've really only been able, like when we talked about price point, our price point's $299 a month, right, for our monthly bookkeeping service. And we just can't get it below that. Like, there's just not a way to do it with people below that in our mind sustainably. And we've tried. So that picks people up kind of around the $500,000 in revenue point. And there's, 5 million people that have businesses below that in the United States, probably. So like, we have this knowledge, like, let's do something with it. So we built the first 8 modules. We've got some beta customers going through it. And we'll see what happens. So it might end up being a marketing thing that we give away for free. It might be class modules that we charge people for. We'll just see what it evolves to.
Yeah. Which leads me to maybe one of my final questions here. What does your typical week look like, Matthew? Like, what, you want to still have a sustainable life, right? Work-life balance is very important for you and the firm. You have a lot going on. You obviously have a great infrastructure with folks like your partner and your COO. But at this point, at this scale, at this size, how does your week break
down? Better than when I was a partner at an accounting firm. A lot better.
Okay, well, that's the good news. Yeah.
Well, I decided I haven't worked a weekend in a while, so I guard my Saturdays and Sundays for family. I like cooking dinner, so I've started cooking dinner for folks. I spend.
And does that mean you end at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m.?
It depends. Now that we shut our office in July, so now that we don't, I was going in 2 days a week before that. Now that I'm from the house all the time, I've gotten into sous vide and all that kind of stuff. So you can set that at noon and whatever, and do whatever you want. But I only run the sales and marketing team, which is only like 6 people. So I have limited one-on-ones. So I support those folks. That's a really important deal. I spend most of Tuesday on big ideas, meeting with my partner and with our COO. That's kind of what the Tuesday routine looks like. On Wednesday and Thursday, I try to get stuff done.
Just to dig into Tuesday. What does that practically look like? Are you having a long lunch with them, or is it whiteboarding virtually? Is it a meeting? Is it asynchronous? How does that work?
Sure. Well, Monday's my content day generally. So I produce, like, if you want to go through my week. So I get up Monday by 10 o'clock, we're working on some kind of content. That means either we're shooting video, we're writing blogs, we're doing whatever we want. I have a content writer now that's been helping us. She's been coming to the house and we've been meeting and because she helps me shoot and stuff like that. So Monday's been heavy content day this is kind of in the last 6 months what my schedule's evolved to. So the
Mm-hmm.
kind of the morning is mostly content, a lot of the afternoon is triage, kind of setting up the week, all that kind of stuff. Tuesday morning, first thing is me and Kenji, that's my business partner. So we get together somewhere between 8 and 10. We've tried to do in person as much as possible since we've gotten vaccinated. But before that, it's always been in person historically. That's kind of a big spot on my calendar that we guard. I usually meet with the marketing team right after that, and then for an hour, and then we jump into the one-on-one with our COO. So it's me, my partner, and the COO. We meet for an hour, and that takes us to about 2 o'clock. We have most things on a cadence. So our leadership team, we kind of, Kenji usually, Kenji used to do that. Lisa does that now. Lisa's our COO. She runs the service line leaders, but about once a quarter, each of those have a meeting that we meet with once a quarter. On Wednesday and Thursday tends to be lots of meetings and then also trying to get stuff done. On Friday usually is my Verify Q day now that I'm the CEO of that company. So that's usually in the second half. The first half, you're knocking stuff out, doing other meetings and stuff like that, whatever tasks are around. I don't know, do a lot of volunteering. I'm the president of the Atlanta Technology Angels. So that usually creeps in, once a week for 2 to 4 hours, depending on kind of what's going on. Try to do a bunch of other stuff. But if you're not, I've been trying to say no more, but it is what it is. So.
Well, yeah, certainly. And, as we depart, you've gone through such a journey, and for folks looking to go on a similar journey and scale in the same way, are there any books that you've come across, resources, like for people that want to, get this journey with 20% less mistakes? Is there something you wish you would have read or stumbled upon earlier in your career?
Yeah, we have been running OKRs, that framework, objectives and key results. I wish we've been doing that for about 3 years. I probably wish that we would have started something like that sooner. So any kind of goal setting, Ryan actually has some good stuff to go through in his future firm roadmap stuff, to kind of think through some of those things. But anything like that works, like any kind of framework where you can have a vocabulary that you can use with your management team. The vocabulary is as important as the strategy, just so you can talk about common things. But the really important thing, that we realized about OKRs in particular was it wasn't that we needed, it was our way of communicating the vision of the company to everybody and not catch them by surprise when something happened. Because a lot of things we work on for a year and they're just working on, and people don't like change. So it was our way of foreshadowing what was going to happen when we saw things coming versus driving people to a result, right? Which that was the biggest impact for OKRs for our company, was that, and not having people working on key results or initiatives and beating people. It was mainly a communication tool.
Interesting.
So having something around communication to get what's in your head, that really helps people. And then just generally, anything by the Basecamp founders, it doesn't have to be crazy at work. It doesn't have to be crazy at work. We're reading with the management team right now one of their books called Shape Up, which is talking about how you move initiatives forward. Now it's about software stuff, so you have to really tailor it to professional services. But we're doing that. But I like anything the Basecamp founders write. Everybody should read. It doesn't have to be crazy at work and then go from there. So
Yeah. Well, Matthew, this has been great. I'll add one recommendation, the book Rework, which I'm sure you're familiar with as well from the similar founders. I find myself going back to that book and just reading page here, page there, a little reminder. They have kind of all these wonderful counterintuitive points that I think is just kind of a joy to read and reflect on for your firm. Matthew, if somebody wants to reach out, say thank you, learn more about everything you're doing, what is the best way for them to connect with you and or the firm?
Oh yeah, I'm the Tech CPA on Twitter and LinkedIn. So the Tech CPA. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm always happy to connect. Obviously, acuity.co is our website, so people can reach out to us there. But always happy to connect. And we're always talking to firm owners around the country. So it's Kenji does it more than me. He talks to a firm owner probably every other day from around the country, maybe even more. I'm more sporadic, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Well, Matthew, this has been a real treat. And if you're listening right now, you couldn't jot down all the notes that he talked about today. You can always go ahead and check that out at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. We'll do a full write-up, 1,000+ words summarizing today's points. The links he mentions, the books he mentioned, some of the tools he mentioned, they'll all be on that article at jetpackworkflow.com/blog. And if you really love this episode, do two things for me. Leave a review and share it with a fellow firm owner that needs to hear something. Maybe you also talk with a lot of firm owners, just like Matthew or his partner does, and you said, oh gosh, I heard something today that they really need to hear, the OKR snippet, whatever it may be. Share the interview with them, get more great content in front of these firm owners. Matthew, this has been a real treat to talk with you, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.